I'm delighted to have you on. How are you doing?
Very well, thank you. Pleasure being here.
Great stuff. Great stuff. So, we have something in common in that we are part of the Tailwind Norway athlete slash ambassador team.
Yes.
So I thought that was a good place to start. Tailwind, we're quite a small community in Norway of athletes. I think there's 49 of us,
Mhm.
many different disciplines involved in that. You're a fellow ultra runner. You've recently completed the Eco Trail race.
Yes.
So I thought that was a good place to start. Uh, Talk to us about how that race went and how you ended up there and so on. Yeah.
Well, it was a good race now that I'm not running it anymore. During the race, I thought that it was hard, and I just repeated a mantra that it's hard, but I trained for it. It's supposed to be hard. It's meant to be hard, but I'm stronger. So I just repeated that mantra over and over again. and and it went fine. So 80 kilometers I covered, and I kind of had this in mind that I have to cover first 30 kilometers and then 50 kilometers. So after the 30 kilometers, I thought I convinced myself that it was easier. It was not, but I just thought that yeah, it's easier now. So yeah, I enjoyed it.
Just, just tell us a bit of background about the race. Where is it? You said it was 80 kilometers. Is it a trail race? Is it a gravel race? Just give us a bit of background about the race itself.
So Oslo Eco Trail is a race in Oslo. The 80 kilometers race starts in Oslo, and then we run all the way around. We run up hills, forests, by the river, nature, um, quite traily. And then last 10 kilometers, we are back in the city, and we finish in the city. So a little bit of city run and mostly forests and trails and trails and trails. There are several distances, and previously I have covered 50 kilometers trail, and I think there are also distances 30 kilometers, 20, and maybe 10 kilometers available as well. So two ultra distances and then the shorter distances.
Great, and 80 kilometers is kind of a nice distance, I think, in terms of ultra running. You're not necessarily going to go through the night. Maybe there's a bit of night time. How long did it take?
Um, it took me 11 hours, and the start is at 6 a.m. So really, you don't get to run at night, and it's not even dark when you finish. So I think the
Nice.
time is it 13 and a half hours or something along those lines. So you don't really get to run at night, which I would like to try actually, like racing at night. I have experience running at night, but it would be interesting to be in a competing environment at night.
I think the best one to get a sample of the night is I've mentioned it many times. Sandnes Ultra Trail. That's when I did the 50 mile. It took me 80 kilometers. It took me 24 hours. The winner was in at around 13 hours. So that gives you an idea of the kind of average time that one is taking. I would say the average time on that is around 18 to 20 hours. So that's a legit race. But Oslo Eco Trail seems like something I'd like to get involved with. Maybe I'll try that next year.
It's a
Yeah,
good one. I
but
really recommend it.
talk a little bit then about how you sort of fuel for that race. Obviously with the tailwind, but how do you, are you a big eater before? Are you little and often through the day, or how do you kind of manage that?
Carb loading several days before the race day, and then on in the morning I like to eat oats, and that's pretty much every time when I race I do oats in the morning, and coffee. I use no fat or reduced fat milk for oats and coffee. And then that's pretty much it. And during the race, I had Tailwind, I had a couple of gels, I had banana, dates, And I also enjoy watermelon in races, but I don't think they provided watermelon. so,
No.
but other than that, yeah, fruit and the stuff like that. Speaking of Tailwind, actually, there was a moment when I don't want to say stressed, but I was a bit like, I'm climbing up the hill. I need to fuel because my clock is so every 35 minutes I get an alarm that I need to fuel and I need to take something. It does not matter how big or small it is. I just need to fuel to get myself through it. And then I realized I'm climbing up that hill and I'm just like, and I have the alarm ringing. It means that I need to take fuel like within a minute or so. And the last thing I wanted is to like fuss around, take bananas and take stuff. So I just had Tailwind and there's this extra carby drink now. And I started stressing, thinking, oh my God, does it mean that I'm like just drinking and not having fuel? And then the second thought was actually, no, this is fuel. So that made me so happy that I could just, some parts where it was hard to fuel or I didn't feel like eating or fussing around, I could just sip and just go for it. So in terms of fueling, I was really happy with everything there. So yeah, but mainly it's Tailwind, fruits, and stuff like that. I don't really like peanuts and salty things.
No, I mean, I have a bit of a problem with sweet things after sort of like in my recent race after like 24 hours of only sugar and sweet and Tailwind and Haribo chews, and I had some carbohydrates, precision fuel and hydration carb chews. After 24 hours, I was just done with it. I was like, I can't put another grain of sugar in me. It was, and that's something I really need to. I've been working with my coach to try and get to the bottom of how to find a fuel strategy, because that for sure is my 100% my weakness is my fueling and how it's a real Achilles heel for me, finding that balance. I'm more of a savory, like mashed potato or pork pie, quiche, something like that. I need to work in. So yeah, but Tailwind's great and it has the great flavors, and you can never really get bored of it if you take enough flavors with you. It's always changed, and it's by far I've tried everything really, and there's not many that come close to the flavors of it. So
I agree.
yeah. So Eco Trail this year wasn't your first ultra marathon, obviously. So just talk a little bit of the journey from the sort of first sort of couple of kilometers road running, maybe. I'm guessing it went like that. And then how did the ultra bug build itself in the journey?
So my very first kilometers, I'd say the thing is, I don't really know when exactly I started running, but more of a regular run was back in 2021. My mom challenged me to run 1 kilometer every day for the entire April. So 30 days, minimum 1 kilometer. Don't need to think more about it. And I thought, well, that's like what, 10 minutes? I can do that. So I did that. And sometimes I did a bit more than a kilometer or so. And then on my birthday, I thought I want to run a half marathon. So I did like self-supported half marathon I lived in England back then. So I ran in Richmond Park in London. So it was a little bit nature run, but not trail that much, just a park run. So I did a half marathon then, and my dad then came into the story when he was so inspired by and so excited that I ran a half marathon. He said, "You need to get a medal for that." So he signed me up for a half marathon in Kew Garden, that's London as well. And that was, I think, where my running story begins, really, because I failed so bad. And the main thing, the biggest fail, was the fueling. Again, we're back to fuel. I mean, I did all possible mistakes that a runner can make on their first race. It was everything. I went too fast at start. I was completely out of everything in the middle of the run. I struggled. I couldn't run. Classic. And the biggest fail that I did with fueling is that I did not eat anything like from the day before because I thought I'm going to feel lighter. I had no idea pacing. It's like zero knowledge. So that was a failure. And when I came to the finish line, I told my dad, look, I think I'm not going to run ever again. Then, and then about 6 months, 6 months from then, I ran my first marathon in Brighton. And that was when I became like a longer distance runner. I felt more comfortable with running. And I think the build up to a first ultra was quite spontaneous as well. I was training for a Bergen City marathon, and I thought, well, Bergen City marathon elevation is about like 500, 600 meters. And I thought, well, if I can cover 42 point something kilometers at that elevation, so probably if I add another 500 meters of elevation and just 8 kilometers, I'll be fine. So I signed up for the Eco Trail in 2023. So May 2023, I'm running my first proper trail ultra, and I set some goals which were unrealistic because I had no idea what that was going to be, and I struggled. It was hard, but I thought that it was okay after I finished, like a couple of days after. I thought, okay, maybe that wasn't that bad, but it was hard in a moment. I didn't understand, like, why is it so tricky? All those routes, am I going to follow? What's going to happen? So yeah, so my start of the journey of running ultra trail was quite spontaneous. I just thought it made sense. It did, but I didn't train for it. And really, the first ultra trail that I actually trained for was this year, 80 kilometers. Wow. Ultra. I did ultras before as well, and last time I covered 100 kilometers in by the Thames in England. So, but that was a really flat race. So 100 kilometers, barely any elevation, so I was glad with the distance. But speaking of ultra and trail, this was my first proper experience with all the build up, all the strength workout and stresses and everything what comes with like proper training I had at this time.
It sounds like a common kind of transition of how people kind of there's some people who start running and they kind of like, nah, this isn't for me, and they'll do a park run and do a 5K and then they don't do nothing else for a year or two. And then you have others, and it's getting a lot more common now, I think, where people sort of, they catch the bug and they kind of realize. And one thing I've realized is it's just the easiest thing you can do to feel good about yourself, really. Yep. If you've had a bit of a rough day, just go for a run. If you're a little bit stressed out, go for a run. If your head's a bit foggy, just go for a run. And I'm of a generation where when I was younger, my default was to go to the pub. So, all right, I'm having a bad day at work, I'm just going to go to the pub. Yeah, this isn't working out, I'm going to go to the pub. And that was kind of like my default in my 20s and 30s. And it's only now really that I've realized that was probably not very beneficial in the long term. But I think if you kind of have a bit of an OCD mind, or maybe not OCD, I don't know what it is, but like a compulsive thing in your head for things, then the natural transition is ultras. And then you start with the 50 milers, and then it's okay, then you're into the 100 milers. So what's in the future now? Have you got your eye on something big?
I don't know. And the thing is, if anyone asked me last year what I was going to do this year, I wouldn't have guessed.
No.
And so last year when I was training for the 100 kilometers, I actually started training for it way too early. So I did 9 months of training because I was a bit unsure if I'm going to be ready for it, how to train and so on. So I started working with my coach, and now this year round, I thought I was going to take something, I don't want to say easier, but something that I'm familiar with. So with that 80 kilometers, I was familiar with the latter 50 kilometers. And I thought, okay, this is going to be, well, something at least I will feel comfortable with. But I think the training was harder but more exciting than I expected. So I don't know how much harder I want to go, or do I want to stay in a safe zone? Do I want to repeat something similar? So at this point, I'm just exploring what's out there. But I certainly know that I want to do ultra trails. I really enjoyed it. It's just like the feelings that I had during the training. The race is one thing, but the training and that changes that happen is like it's the entire life.
But just talk about that then in terms of your training then for these sort of these really long races, because I'm the same. I'm sort of training every day. I have some 100-milers booked in for one in August potentially, and October and April next year. I haven't. So I'm really interested to talk a little bit about the training, because I kind of feel sometimes that I'm just slipping into running zone 2, 10 or 12 kilometers every day, and that's kind of like my default kind of run every day. And then every now and again I throw in like an interval session, or I'll try and do a half marathon, at kind of threshold, and push myself a bit. So sort of for me, that's kind of like under 2 hours type of thing. So just talk a little bit how you vary it, and how you I can never say the word specificate, but how you specify your training into that.
So, well, obviously one long run a week is a must. I will always have that. And so when I will just talk about this training block, the most recent one. So I had my long runs on weekends, on Saturdays. That's my longest run of the week, be it 30 kilometers, a marathon, any distance. Then I would have something like interval training, tempo, and I enjoyed and not enjoyed at the same time hill training, because sometimes I would feel like I had, for instance, 8 reps uphill, 3 minutes, and then I jog down. And then when I do like the 4th and the 5th, it feels like it's not getting any harder in terms of like physically. It's already maximum hard as it can be. But mentally something changes, and I feel like, okay, but I feel like I could possibly run 8, 9, or maybe 10 reps. It's okay. And these psychological things, they helped me during the race as well, when it felt so hard. But I thought, okay, it's hard physiologically, but my mind is in the right place, so it's gonna be fine. So I think, different types of training, they not only train like physiology, but also mental side of it, like pushing through those barriers, feeling comfortable at pushing self. And actually nowadays I'm really enjoying running without need to push myself. I'm like, I can just run whatever, however I want, and that feels that also brings a different kind of joy. So yeah, different types of runs structured throughout the week, strength workout as well. So it was quite busy couple of months, but it was a very gradual build up. So if at the beginning I felt like, okay, it's not that hard, eventually I did hard things, but I didn't notice how the day came when I ran what I did. So yeah,
it's interesting, because it sounds like me a little bit in terms of obviously life gets in the way, and work and families and things like that kind of get in the way. So sometimes I kind of just default to, I just need to do 10K on my feet, time on feet, I call it. And I've done something, and it's kind of strange when you think that just nipping out to do a 10K is like the minimum you're kind of doing. It's crazy. I mean, 10 years ago, if somebody would have said that to me, I'd have been like, no, you're crazy. I can't even run around the block. And it's funny how the journey progresses in such a short time as well. There may be people listening to this who are kind of like thinking about running, and they're kind of umming and ahhing about it. But I would just say, you just go. And because before you know it, it only takes a few months before you really see the benefits of it. And then you're dropping into this habit, every day. And then like you say, 2021 when you started, I think you said, 4 years, and you're almost, you have a coach, you're varying your training, and it's a journey that you probably has gone in the blink of an eye.
Yeah, that's true. And it grew so quickly. And the thing is, now what I noticed, that there are so many different types of running and styles of running and road and trail and distances of running, that when I talk to people, and well, people are impressed that I do ultras, but that does not mean that they have to do ultras as well. I mean, do a park run. I know people who run park runs every week or once a month, and they absolutely enjoy it. And some people do more social style, some people do more fun run, some people go for the strongest run ever and just pushes themselves. So it's a very individual for everyone. And the beauty of running as well is it's simple, but it's also it's huge. There are so many different things, so many different styles and types of races and everything. And people might not even want to compete, which is great. Absolutely fine. Just find your own flow. And I think
Yeah,
it's just now
totally.
that I'm finding that flow, really. So 4 years later.
Yeah, that's an interesting point, because like where I am living, we have an interval club on Tuesdays in Hergesund. Tuesdays at 6 o'clock at Haraldhallen, if anybody is interested in that. But we have the elite runners running round at 3-minute 20 pace, and then you have people who are walking, doing it because they just want to get out and improve their fitness, and I'm sure they'll grow. So you have two ends of a spectrum, and then I'm somewhere in the middle with most other people, just sort of going round as fast as I can, and getting the kilometers in. But socially, it's such a great thing nowadays. I mean, it may be 10 years, even I would say up to 10 years ago, it wasn't like it is now. It's grown so fast. And one thing that I've certainly found in Hergesund is even the elite runners, and I'm talking sort of like 1 hour 20 half marathon runners, they're so inclusive of everybody and getting new people in, and they're not like, oh, that's the elites, we can't even talk to them kind of thing. It's so inclusive.
It's very comfort. I love the community, and this is one of the things that I absolutely enjoy in running world, is the just the people and conversations. And the thing is, even people who are like, as you said, 120 elites, pros, they also go through their challenges. They also have all of the struggles. We're all in the same boat. It's just that, well, everyone in their own level and in their own flow, but we all go through challenges, and that's something that we can relate to with one another. And yeah, it's everyone's team. We're all one running team.
I had a kind of a funny incident yesterday. I had a chap who we ran in Sandnes together, but not together. We were just in the same race, and then we obviously connected over Strava at some point. And then he sent me a message. I live close by to you, and I see you're running. I see you're running in the trails where I'm running. So I was like, okay, yeah, I'm there most days, and blah blah. He says, we should go for a run together. So yeah, no problem. We met up yesterday for a run. Unfortunately, what I didn't know is that he's blooming Kilian Jornet's long lost twin, because he was up and down these trails like I've never seen anything. I must have looked like a complete amateur, sweating 100 meters behind him, thinking, oh my days, what have I got myself into here? But the point of that being is that no matter how good you think you might be doing these ultras and blah blah blah, there's always somebody who is gonna push you.
Yeah.
And I meet so many people who are like, they're just taking me to another level when I'm meeting these people, And I hope there's one or two who might look at me and think, if Steve can do it, I can do it, type of thing. So that was an interesting thing.
I agree.
Yeah.
I just thought about one interval training that we have here locally as well, and I've been there, I think, just a couple of times really. But most people who come, well, it's not a big group that we run, but they're so fast. They're those, well, not elite, but really cool runners. And when I run, I'm kind of a slower runner. So when we do those intervals, like I'm really pushing myself, and they're just like breezing and flowing. But the beauty is that we run back and forth, which means that we see each other often. And I just and when they see me, they're like, "Yeah, well done." So that encourages so much. And even when I think that, okay, I'm probably like the slowest ever, just having this energy around, just really, yeah, I think I ran those intervals I run normally faster just because of that energy and encouragement than I would like if I was to run alone.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, most times when I'm kind of 50-50 about doing the intervals, and then it's one of those things where when you go and do it, you come back and you think, oh no, I'm really glad I went there, because the social, being an ultra runner is quite a lonely world in some ways, because when you start these races, you might be 100 people at the start, and then it soon filters out, and you do find yourself quite lonely at some. I mean, I've gone through the night a few times, and luckily I've always kind of teamed up through the night. I've always kind of thought that's quite smart, especially in the trails. It's usually quite smart to team up with somebody, and it's usually somebody you don't know, and then you have that great learning thing, and you're talking and learning everything about everything they've ever done, and so the night goes really quick, which is a good little tactic if people are thinking about going through the night in ultra runs. It can be a smart thing to do.
And it's so nice to see them, these people at the finish line, and it feels like we actually made friends, even though we just met like, okay, several hours ago and we had the chat, but it feels so warm at the finish line. We're all hugging, and social media and everything, and then having chats on Instagram or on any platform. How are
Mm.
you? How are your legs? How is everything? So I mean, it's amazing. And even though we do have to run alone at some point, but I think those connections made, they are unique.
Mm. One other thing I wanted to touch on, obviously, you mentioned that you have a coach.
Yes.
So I have a coach, and a lot of people sort of, not a lot of people, but quite often people will say, why do you need a coach? You've got Chat GTP, and you can type in what you need, and you can get all the information. And it's true, the information's out there if you really want it. So I have my reasons for having a coach, but I'm interested to hear what your reasons why you have a coach.
When I first was looking for a coach, that was, I wanted to run 100 kilometers, so I was just looking for someone who knows how to do that. I did not want to trust any I mean, I trained with apps and things like that, so I knew how to get myself ready for a marathon. But 100 kilometers, that sounded something that was a bit like, I didn't want to take a risk, and also that meant traveling to the UK and everything. So I didn't want to risk and just fail, because I'm not a coach myself, and I can feel myself, but it's different. Coaching and running is two different things. So yeah, I found a coach. She's from England, Anna Harding from the Running Channel, and we just spoke a couple of times. We found that our energies work well together, and yeah, we started training. The 100 kilometers race was success, and at some point I thought that I also need a coach, so that I can, that will sound cheeky, share responsibility for my for my running. So it's not only all on me, that whatever happens is like, oh, this is my fault. Maybe I had to run more, maybe I had to run less, like these questions. Like, I mean, you can ask a computer, AI, ChatGPT, whatever, but it's different when you have this human connection. So having that communication and shared responsibility and shared winning um, felt really good. So this time around, when I signed up for 80 kilometers race. I just felt that she is of a similar age to me. Her running experience is similar, so she knows how I might feel in certain times, and yeah. So when we train, I just now train because I feel that our energies match. Everything is going great, and I just want to continue with that great energy. So I mean, the thing is, at this point I just think I just have a coach because it feels great. Just as simple as that. It feels good to have someone, and we have this chat, we communicate often, and have Zoom meetings often, so we can discuss how things went. I can just, at the end of a long run, I can just write, "Oh, this was really hard," or "Oh, this was amazing," and I felt the flow. So it's good to have this connection with coach, and yeah, and I think that's a bit. The initial idea was like 100 kilometers, then shared responsibility, just to feel comfortable about running, and now it just feels good to just feel good to have a coach.
That's it. Yeah, that's interesting. I've not actually thought about it of the shared responsibility. I've never thought of that. It's that's interesting. I mean, I see the benefits of a coach in technical ways more so, and I like the accountability. That's quite a big thing for me. Even though I have a full-time job, a family, Sondra will write in my training peaks, the ideal. He basically will optimize, or the way I see it, he optimizes my training given what races are in training peaks. So I'm getting a little bit technical now, and he will say, if you're going to do a half marathon race on Saturday, this is the kind of best training you want to be doing, and he will manage. And also, he's really good before certain types of races, because he's such an experienced ultra runner himself. He will say, in this race, you need VJ shoes. Do not use Salomon, or use Salomon in this race. Don't, so he's really good with technical points, and he will sort of, after I DNF'd in Sandnes, we kind of went into it a little bit, and I had a tooth infection, and it was pretty clear there was nothing really to digest. It wasn't like something training failed. It was basically physiology that pulled me out, which is fine. And I thought I would take it a bit harder than I did, but actually I was quite happy that I did, because I just continued training a few days later. Whereas I think I've mentioned it in other podcasts. If you know you're going to run out of oxygen going to the summit of Everest, you're going to die on the way down because you've run out of oxygen. You don't go, because that's just stupidity, So I think an important thing in this sort of ultra world is knowing what the sensible move is and what the smart move is, because for me it's about a journey, and it's about, I sort of have these peaks along the way of the journey, but my mentality is I don't rest everything on this peak. Do you know what I mean? I don't say this is the be all and end all. For me, it's just a part of a journey. So 100-mile race, to me, it's part of a journey. Hopefully I finish it. My plan is to. Everything will go into that. But if I don't, it's just another notch. And as long as I learn something, I'll go into the next training block or the next thing and just work towards that one. And I think it's quite important. I think it's quite important in our game that you see it like that. I think if you pin a lot on kind of one race, because I hear it quite a lot. People I talk to, they pin everything on these races, and you can have bad weather. And I go back a little bit to the Sandnes race. That if that is raining, if it's raining in the Sandnes Ultra Trail, I reckon I'm DNF at the first checkpoint.
Mm.
That serious. That's how tough that race is. Like, I am 100% sure if it rains, I'm out. I'm out soon. So if you pin everything on that,
Yeah.
and the weather goes against you roll an ankle after 10 kilometers.
Mm.
For me and my mentality, and history of having some bad mental health problems,
Mm.
for me not to continue the journey was just not worth it. Do you understand where I'm coming from?
Well, with those like main races, I'm the runner who likes to have like a race of the year. But that being said, I always have three goals, and the first goal, a goal, is like I call if all stars align. That means if everything just runs, like just magic happens, and I feel like everything is amazing. The weather is the perfectest, so if all stars align. Then B goal is always like the realistic goal, something like, yeah, this is something that I should more or less achieve. And then the C goal, if everything goes wrong, like if it's not the day, the weather is that, like if everything is just a disaster, then the C goal is like the minimum I want to achieve. So it's been okay so far with these three goals, and the C goal is normally something that is like I allow myself a lot of time, very generous. I mean, as long as there's no strict cutoff time, I so far I'm fine with pretty much all of the races that I've done. I mean, I think the first race when I had this like a glimpse, like a microsecond of thought about DNF was the 80 kilometers trail when I was climbing up a hill. But that was just like the moment where brain sends all possible things in, like just everything in my head, and that was just one of the thoughts. But obviously that I didn't consider that at all. It wasn't in the plan. It wasn't the plan, so I just moved forward. And for this race, it helped me to have like I did my homework, and I had like a little paper with all of the like kilometers with uphills, where it's a downhill, where it's like a stationary. So it was quite a detailed information. So when I went up a hill, and I thought this is really hard, really, really, really hard, but it's just 800 meters till I reach the top. So maybe I can just go through it. So let's just push through that for another 800 meters. And during those hard moments, yeah, I just focus on that. Like it's just that many meters left until, because the hills normally uphills are not like, well, different races are different, but in Oslo, I think the longest uphill was like the longest hard uphill was maybe about 3 kilometers. So it's not that bad at the end. So having those things in mind and having those goals kind of helped me to move through those hard moments. But as I said, I've never really tried like night running. I've been running in the dark, and I did a backyard ultra where I ran a lap at night in the dark, but never really ran like night so that everyone's sleeping, and that and that feeling. I'm actually quite curious to experience that. I did a little bit of training at night once. I had to do training, and with my mindset, if I have it written on a plan, I will do the training, even if it means that I'm going to run out in the midnight. I'm going to do the training. So I had to do a long run with some elevation, and I left home at about 8:30, so quite late in the evening, and I came back home at 2 a.m. because of all of the. So it was quite enjoyable, but at some point I was a little bit like, I know we don't have any wild animals here, but I think my brain started doing some nonsense, and I thought that. And the thing is, I was running really near city, like we might see one or two deers, but definitely not any dangerous animal. But my mind was a bit funny. Anyway, so yeah, so I was just saying about this main goal. I do have that, just to stay focused, and maybe not to aim for a too big goal in other races. So this year I did two more races before the 80 kilometers, and just so I don't burn myself out and I don't feel sad that I didn't achieve a fantastic result. I just consider this, okay, this is a long run. It's a cool run. It was amazing. We went there, we did this race, came back, but it's a long run. So that helped to not feel so sad about the other runs. So I had this main, I'm the runner who does have a one race per year.
Oh, I mean, I have a main race, and I do have a main race, but I don't. I mean, 2 years ago, I would have been quite all in on it, but I kind of have a bit of a broader mind now of that it's a journey with things, and you've kind of got to accept anything can kind of happen, especially when you get kind of into the 100-mile game. You know, I've found that, you know, like 50 miles, you can kind of squeak 50 miles out if you get into some problem. The first 50-mile race I did, I got into a total mess. But by the time I got in the mess, I was quite close to the end. So it was kind of like, I can just see this out, and it's not going to be like the C result will be. But I think on my experience, I've only attempted 100-miler so far, and that's kind of like going through the night. Is you can't squeak it out if you have a problem at sort of 40 miles. Then you've got like another 60 miles to go, and that's when real grit is needed, and you need all the stars to align. And but what are your future plans then for this year? Is there anything big lined up now?
Well, the nearest plan is I'm going on holiday, and I'm hoping to make my mind about what am I going to run next during the holiday, because I have few races in mind, but I don't know, and I just need to, I don't know. At this point, I'm just exploring what's out there, and apparently there are so many different interesting trail races, and it feels like I want to try all of them, but I need to be mindful as well. I don't know. I've been to Oslo so many times. I thought I wanted to do Oslo Marathon, and I've done that twice. I thought maybe I want to do this again, but I've been to Oslo so many times in the couple of years. So I just thought maybe I need to pause with Oslo. I don't know. So at this point, I'm just like trying to make sense of just basically what my second half of the year is going to look like, and maybe think about something what I'm going to do next year, just roughly, so that I can place some races this year that will build me up for something next year. So a little bit of maths here.
I can definitely recommend Sandnes Ultra Trail, the 50 mile. The 50 mile is I think the 50 mile is the only one that doesn't sell out immediately. So the 100-mile is sold out after 2 days. The 43K is sold out immediately, I think. Maybe there's still some left in that. But the 50-mile, for some reason, I don't think it fills up straight away. So you always have a chance with the 50-mile there. I'm most 99% doing Lommedalen Rund, which is over Oslo way, I think. And I think that's a 20 odd kilometer loop. And that's 100 miles. I don't know if it's, I think it's a bit of trail. Maybe it's gravel or that kind of thing. So that's an interesting one. And then you have the GB Ultras series in the UK. So I'm starting with the Chester 100 miles in April next year. But I only booked that one because I was going to book Sandnes again, even though the pain and the heartache, I'd forgotten about it, and I was ready to go back again. I thought, there's no chance. I have to book another race around that same time that's not like going to brutalize me again. But I will go back to Sandnes. I'll take my revenge in this life or the next. But maybe 2027 for Sandnes. But I would really recommend that. Lisa Fjorden. I don't know if you've done that one, which is down Stavanger way. No. That's this weekend, I think. So that could be up your street. That's like I think that's maybe 60 odd kilometers around a fjord. So the great thing nowadays is that these ultra races are all over. They're just bobbing up everywhere, especially in Norway. You have the trails and the mountains. They're everywhere.
Yeah, absolutely agreed. Yeah, and there are also the backyard ultras all everywhere. And I've done Ekeberg backyard ultra twice in Oslo. Absolutely love that. That's the last man standing race, which is also one of the things that I'm considering. I've done this twice in a row, maybe, but again, I never really trained for that race. It was always a race that I did as a part of training for something else. So that thing is also that is kind of in my mind, maybe.
Yeah, I'm doing the Randaberg backyard in August, but it's not last man standing. It's only 12 loops, the same like Sandnes backyard ultra, which was 12 loops. Training for those it's a funny one, really, because I was basically just running 6.7k loops around my house, and it's quite interesting when you get to sort of like the third or fourth loop. It takes a different psychological level. It's very peculiar format for me.
Totally agreed. I think that third or fourth lap, that's the strange point. When I did back here in Ekeberg, the third lap was like, what am I doing? Like, why am I running this again? It's just, but after that, it's all fine. Like fifth lap is okay, sixth lap, but the third or fourth, like that, it's just something weird.
Yeah, I have a friend who he's a legit trail runner, Bjarte Vetterland. He is one of the best in Norway. He's up there in the top couple of people trail running in Norway. And I did a loop with him at Sandnes Backyard Ultra, and we did the loop, instead of the loop being 45 minutes, which is what I was running, it was like 33 minutes, the loop. And I was like, oh, that's me finished. I'm done. That's my race done. And it was about the fifth loop. And I never really recovered that. So I've got Bjarte to thank for making the last few loops absolutely miserable, because it's an interesting strategy as well. You know, how do you kind of go at like 50-minute loops? I think it's about, for me, I'm thinking 50-minute loops is kind of nice. You have 10 minutes when you get in. And
I normally do about 50 few minutes loops, because I don't want to stay too long, so I don't kind of switch into recovery and lazy zone. I still want to be like in the running mood, in the dancing mood for a run again. I very much recommend everyone Ekeberg Backyard Ultra. It's a super cozy, amazing race. I felt I absolutely love the atmosphere. It's not that many people on the race. I think there is like top 200 people, something like quite a small number of people participating. The atmosphere is absolutely amazing. The person who organizes and does everything is Jon Aspel, who is a Norwegian record holder for Backyard Ultra. He has run 62 laps, and that sounds crazy. And just, I think last weekend, or just a few days ago, he ran in Rome, and he covered 60 laps, which to me sounds like I can't get my head over it. It's just too hard for me to think about it. My top was 11 laps, and I felt great. I felt okay.
Yeah, I mean, it's a really interesting format. I really quite like it. It's tough. I like the kind of different toughness to that, to then doing a trail run, and then kind of like I'm doing a half marathon on Saturday, so I kind of like the challenge of having to run at a tempo pace and try and so I mean, the running kind of, you don't have to be an ultra runner, you don't have to be a marathon runner. There's so many different variations, like you say. It could be 5k, and you just gotta let it take you where it takes you, and take it as it comes, kind of thing.
Yeah, absolutely. I have a question. I'm just curious. What do you think? Do you think running a backyard ultra, like running laps and laps and laps, is harder or easier than running a trail? I know this is a very like not a very accurate question to ask.
I would
On this.
I would say it's easier.
Oh, okay.
But I'm coming from literally only running Sandnes Ultra Trail.
Okay, yeah, okay, yeah, that makes
So my ultra trail or my ultra running experience is literally Sandnes Ultra and training for Sandnes Ultra. So I've not really. I'm looking forward to doing an ultra that I can actually run, because Sandnes is not a heck of a lot of running unless you're like elite of the elite. You know, it's a slow. The average time is slow. So I'm actually looking forward to running a regular, what I would call a regular trail race.
Yeah.
But I don't know if, I mean, it's a psychological game. This game that we're in, it's kind of like, you know, when you get past sort of 50k or 60k, where's your head? How do you cope with not fueling right, or not being able to fuel, or going into a low spot? I know in the backyard, the last backyard ultra I did, I was gone at lap 10. I did 12 laps, but lap 10 and 11, I don't even remember. I was just in a K-hole. Don't talk to me. Leave me alone. I'm not smiling. I'm just getting this done and I'm getting out of here. I was real low. And then the last lap is obviously you've done it and you're like, all right, just get this last lap out of the way. So it's interesting, and it kind of takes you to new places you've never been. That's kind of how I play this game, is I want to see how I react in certain, when I'm pushed to the absolute, you know, how do I react? So that's kind of it for me. That's my sort of motivation for it.
Oslo Eco Trail is a, well, I don't want to say comfortable because it's not easy, but I think it's a really good it's a great race because you get so many, well, you get a lot of different grounds to run on. So you run on road, you run on like gravel or like sand, you know, like the ground but not asphalt, but just ground. Then you have a little bit hills and you know, climbing up, and stones and roots and everything. So there are and also mud, you know, like there's so many different things. And at some point I think it's exciting to try this. It feels a little bit like a game. So when I run trails, I try to look at it a little bit like and also there are so many different types. Like I think the race that you ran was a really challenging one, and it was a really high elevation, which again, it's like I've underestimated how hard elevation can be several times in my running. And now I'm really very mindful about that. Every 500 meters can mean, like, it makes a race significantly harder. Like running 2 kilometers elevation or 2.5 or like 2,500 meters elevation, that's different. That's already like significantly harder. So yeah, I would very much recommend trying Oslo Eco Trail. It's lovely, it's wonderful, nice energy. Also, we start 80 kilometers at we started at 6 a.m. and those who ran 50 kilometers, they started at 11, I think. So this means that we ran past them, and roughly the time when they were all getting ready for their race, we run past them and they're cheering, and there's so much good energy in that race. And also that's a race when you don't really get to feel so much lonely, because there are those other runners from all other distances. And also when they saw my bib, which was really tired after the first 30 kilometers, it felt great to have their support, and they're like, oh, well done. So yeah, very much recommend Oslo Eco Trail to everyone who wants to trial a trail. Oh my god. And there are also different distances. You can do 30 kilometers if you want to try something not that brutal.
Great stuff. I'll put a few links in the show notes to the races we've spoken about. Where can people follow you if they want to follow your journey?
Yeah, they can follow me on Instagram. You can add my link as well. That's
I can. Yeah.
My name, lower dash, my surname, and just welcome to follow me. I try to post often.
I will fix that so people can give you a follow and see the journey. Erika, thanks so much for your time. I really appreciate it. Good luck for everything that's coming up. We stay in touch and come back on next year. Tell us how you've got on with everything, and yeah, good luck again.
Thank you very much. I have to say, I love listening to podcasts, and today being a guest of a podcast makes me feel very special. Thank you very much for this special feeling, and it was an absolute joy speaking to you about running.
No problem. Thanks very much. We talk soon.